What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Inside Lines podcast. I'm your host, Atoya Burleson.
And I am Tia Avril.
Coming up a bit later in the show, we'll be chatting with Whitney Risner. But before we get into all of that, Tia, happy Halloween week. What's going on, girl?
Girl, not much. You know, we don't do too much of the Halloween stuff, so we just been chilling, avoiding all the parties and all the stuff.
Yeah, how do the kids do with that? How do they deal with that?
Girl, they desperately want to. And they're like, but they have like, at Xander's school, they do like something during chapel, and then they do a parade and a party or whatever. So I usually pick them up before the parade. And Xander's like, I know, Mom, I know I can't do the party in the afternoon, but can I please do chapel? Because we've been practicing chapel. I'm like, yeah, you can do chapel. But yeah, girl, he still, he doesn't understand. And even though like Cliff and I have different beliefs, like when it comes to that, I'm like, that's important to Cliff. So I'm like, okay, whatever, y'all will be all right.
Pick your battles.
Pick your battles, girl.
Girl.
But what's
That's a tough one because I know deep down inside you probably want to celebrate it too. Costumes and candy, like who don't like that? It's once a year you get to.
I missed 3 parties, okay?
Right?
3 big parties, but no, it's fine. It's which I feel like we mentioned before, but just from a religious standpoint, Cliff's family is like no go on all things Halloween, and that's how he grew up. So, like you said, I pick and choose my battles.
Yeah.
They also didn't really they acknowledge and celebrate Christmas, but it's more like handful of gifts, no tree, none of that. And I am like freaking
I draw the
Christmas
line there.
Wonderland. Yeah.
I draw the line there, sir. Absolutely not.
Right. It is like winter wonderland when you come to my house. Okay. I'm like, okay, I'll give you Halloween, but Christmas is my time to shine. But but anyhow, what about you? You look like y'all had a big party.
Over here we celebrate Burloween, okay? I love, for me, Halloween is costumes and candy. And I truly feel like it's like what you make it. And I love once a year being able to be a kid and dressing up and putting on a costume. Like, that is so fun. And I think the best part about it, so I'm just let everybody know, we just celebrated a Burloween Bash over here where we get all adults to come together and dress up in costumes. And when I say it is lit, first of all, you see like somebody walk in with the costume on and you immediately trying to figure out who's like what the costume is. And then you're trying to figure out who's behind it. It is so fun. Like, I absolutely love it. We had a much bigger bash this year. It was probably over 100 people. So I had to set up in the backyard and I had the tents, I had the food and the DJ and the stage, and we laughed and danced and had the best time.
Okay, so you got to tell me, because I saw some costumes online,
okay,
or on Instagram, but you got to tell me who won best costume?
So what we do is we have a best costume winner and we have a best couples costume winner. And the best costume winner was Ursala from The Little Mermaid. And when I say she went all out, she had the tentacles, she had the voice necklace, she had the makeup. It was so amazing. I'll put some pictures in here.
I didn't see Ursula,
so y'all can see. And the best couples costume was actually 2 women. My dear friends, they dressed up as Ice-T and Coco. And when I say Dawn brought it, she had like the beard thing here, the mustache, this one under, like it was the details. And when then Jessa had the whole prosthetic Coco big boobs and the butt, and it was people were cracking up. And Dawn was stressing me out because she was playing Ice-T to a T, like she was in straight like hands crossed in and with her feet out, like she was giving Ice-T the whole night. I'm like, that's enough. Okay, just get out of character. You're stressing me out. It was so fun. We had such a good time.
Okay, their costumes were great. I loved.
But we had some fun.
I liked you and Nate's costume too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we paid homage to Shaft, who just passed away. So that's why Nate decided to do that one. But we had Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift.
Oh, did y'all?
We you name it.
Okay,
like,
I did not see Travis and Kelce.
I'm gonna throw the pictures in here.
I said Travis and Kelce. Travis and
Travis
Taylor.
Kelce and Taylor. Yes, we had Bobby and Whitney, which was a dope one. We had Coach Prime. We had a couple dress up as Coming to America, King Jaffe Jopper? Yeah, Jaffe Jopper from Coming to America. And they had the whole outfit on. And
who's that? The dad? Don't take
that's
my card,
the king.
John.
Yeah, the king. Yeah,
the dad.
I think it's Jaffe Joffer. I want to say he had all of it. He had all of it on, and she came with her wrap on her head. They even had the money, and they printed out her picture on the money. It was the details for me. It was just so many dope costumes that someone did a deer. You know how the saying "a deer in headlights." The wife came and she had the headlights on her boobs. They were flashing.
Oh,
and then the husband dressed up as the deer. Like costumes.
Okay. See, I love the creativity too, right? Because who would have thought?
And seeing adults just laughing and being kids again and having fun, like, you know,
it was a good time.
I absolutely loved it. So I'll put some pictures in here. We had a great time at the Burloween Bash. I already got some ideas for next year to make it bigger and better, but I'm gonna leave that there because you know me, I'm planning way ahead in my mind. So yeah, it was such a fun time. Happy Halloween to everybody that's getting ready to go get all their candy and
y'all be careful.
Dress up. Yes, y'all send us and send us your. We want to see what y'all dress up as too. I know there's some other people that do some crazy stuff. We would love to see it.
Absolutely.
All right. So at this time, instead of us doing hot takes, Tia, we got something to tell everyone, which I'm super excited about. I don't think everyone knows, but not only is this season 5, but this is also our 100th episode. I can't believe that.
Look, and you know, it's interesting because I was at a podcast conference earlier this year, and they said that most shows never make it past 10, right? So you start the podcast process, things don't go how you want it to go, and you really end. And I look at us like we done been ups and downs and tried 20, 30, 50 different ways. But we made it, y'all.
We made it, y'all. 100 episodes. And we want to thank y'all for supporting us, listening to us. And we've had some, like I've say, some amazing, inspirational women on. When I look back, what's one of your favorite episodes that sticks out in your head, Tia?
So I'm going to take out Super Bowl because Super Bowl has been a different, amazing, like crazy show in and of itself. But in terms of having women on, like we've had, to Atoya's point, some dope women, right? But what stands out to me most right now is Chesley Christ.
Yes, Chesley Christ.
Yes, because it was so like light and uplifting and you know, like all the things. And then unfortunately, you know, she's no longer with us, but her episode always plays in my mind when I think about like, oh, what's an episode we can run back? That one comes to mind, but being as though we ran it back, I don't, you know, it's like, what else stands out? But yeah, definitely her. What about you? What episode stands out for you?
Gosh, you know, I think about all the different women, like the wives that we've had on supporting their men in the NFL. And I always love those because everybody's journey is a little different, but there's always things we can pull from it, you know, together. But if I were to go back, I would say the first and only that we've had on was Nicole Lynn, the NFL agent.
For sure.
I absolutely loved hers, and I loved her book. But I would say this season, I loved Sarah Taylor's story. It was so good and so inspirational, and all that she stands for and all that she's doing now. I love when people take things that happen to them in life and they don't become victims. They don't let it, you know, make them who they are. Instead, they pull greatness from it and become more resilient and even better. I just think those stories are so dope. So we've had some great people on. I cannot like look back and feel like, oh gosh, I don't
just
really
pick one.
It's too hard. I don't really know who to. There's so many. We could keep going on and on, but we want you guys to, if you guys are just, you know, new to Inside Lines podcast and you haven't seen the other seasons, go back and listen to them. There's some amazing women on there that we know that you will pull from. And
absolutely.
Should we tell them why this is this 100th episode, what we're doing for season 5?
Come on, let's run it.
So to commemorate season 5 and our 100th episode, we decided to print some Inside Line t-shirts, y'all. We're selling Inside Line t-shirts. You can purchase them for yourself. Give them to a girlfriend. The holidays are right around the corner. y'all come purchase these shirts and represent us and take a picture and send it to us so we can put you on. Okay. We're going to put you on our social media. So you'll check out check the link in our bio, right? Tia, is it? Yeah,
yep. I'll drop it in our bio for this week's episode. And then also, y'all, we have YouTube, okay?
Yes.
If you are listening on the podcast platforms, check us out on YouTube, which we always make sure there's links to YouTube in our bio as well.
Yes. So y'all look in our bio, YouTube, look on Instagram, and we're going to try to get on our website as well so you can check there and see. But we're going to try to make sure that we have it everywhere so that y'all have no excuses and y'all can purchase them and send us some pictures. All right, y'all. Coming up next, we have our conversation with the amazing Whitney Risner. On the show today, we have a business marketing major and collegiate basketball player from Fort Hays State University. She is a social media sensation that found a passion for creating videos and connecting with people. And she is a business owner of a jewelry line called Waawees Jewelry and is married to Minnesota Vikings player Dalton Risner. Whitney Risner, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming on. I feel like, there's a theme of ladies that we've had on here where they've been like collegiate athletes in college.
I love that.
I think about that from one to the next. What's your favorite moment from college? I guess I should tell people that, you played college basketball. Tell us your favorite moment and when you fell in love with basketball.
Yeah, so I fell in love with basketball at a young age. I loved being able to push myself and just like see that reward. I loved being on a team sport. I just grew up like loving basketball. And so I always knew I wanted to play college ball. My favorite memory is definitely on the court. My freshman year, I almost said my rookie year, my freshman year, I played my very first college game was against Geno Smith with UConn women's basketball. Very crazy.
Wow.
Like, they had just lost, I'm pretty sure, to Notre Dame and ended their 111 game streak. And we were the first game off of that, an exhibition game. And I just remember seeing those women play and being like, these women are talented. Like half of them are in the WNBA now. So it was such an honor to get to play them. And I mean, even being like on the same court as them. So it was really fun. I was a little bitty tiny freshman and I was scared to death. I remember we like hung out with them the week of. So like I remember in the weight room with them, like hanging out with Gino giving a speech, and it was just a really cool experience. Definitely like something a lot of people will never get to experience. And I know UConn is always like the top of the food chain in women's basketball. And we played them at like their peak too, just off 111 game win streak. That is just unheard of. So that's probably my favorite memory on the court.
So you were in awe. You were just like,
I was. I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe this is my first ever game. Like, I don't even get a warm-up game against anybody else. We're just going straight for it.
Threw you right in the fire, okay?
Right in the fire, absolutely. And it was in their stadium, which was so cool too.
What do you think about just kind of like what has been happening with women's sports here lately, especially women's basketball, right? Like you hear everybody's always looking for the support, right? Like what's going on with women's basketball? Like just come out and support us, watch us. And now it's here, right? Like this class of ladies in college and the WNBA has made it very entertaining.
Yeah, it just gives me the chills to hear you say that. I mean, I remember this past March Madness watching and hearing all the hype about Caitlin Clark and just watching her and the LSU girls go at it and just seeing like, I love it so much. I mean, just seeing girls get so fiery and like bring this entertainment element to the game. I think it's so fun. It's so cool to see women on a big stage like that and just do their thing and to be the entertainers and like to draw a crowd. I think that those girls deserve that and they're so talented. So they definitely have my attention. That's for sure.
I know, that's right.
They have everyone's attention. That was so amazing. That whole run, I think everybody was just glued to their TVs, which was so fun to watch.
So fun.
So it's so interesting because I think about, being a collegiate athlete and you give all of your time and your energy. And then you have this idea to start making jewelry in college. Yeah. How in the world did that happen?
Exactly. It was like I had always been very business mindset. I mean, when I was a freshman in college, I wanted to have a rental property. So by my sophomore year, I got a house, lived off campus, and I was like a landlord. Some of my teammates lived with me. And so I was always just like that, like business entrepreneur itch, just like always in my head. And I always wanted to do something with it.
Did your parents were your parents entrepreneurs?
No. Well, okay. I guess my dad's a farmer and my mom's a teacher. So I guess farming is like running a whole business, but not like your typical like storefront business, I guess, or like what you would typically think of as an entrepreneur. But I don't know what it is. Even from like a young age, my parents they got a kick out of it because I just always had these ideas just like here and there. And I started making, I don't know if you guys remember those like leather wrap bracelets that were like trendy for a while.
Yes.
So I was making those out of my dorm. And then I was going to like Hobby Lobby and getting those like chains and the little loopholes and like, putting pliers together. Like I was making all of this handmade. And so obviously, like you guys are talking about with a college sport, I didn't have time for it. I think if my coach would have found out that I was doing that, he would have lost it on me. But there just wasn't time for it. But I remember having a little Wix, I think website is what it was. And I remember I got my first order from New Jersey one day because I was doing a lot of it through social media. And back then I wasn't like really big into social media. I just was posting my jewelry. And I remember I had an order from New Jersey one time and I just went crazy. Like my best friend was in the dorm with me and I'm like, I can't believe this, like New Jersey. And so it's like such a full circle moment now to like sell all over the United States and have the opportunity to do that. It's just like a very full circle moment.
I think it's amazing. The fact that you even have the time to do that in college it blew my mind. I'm like, wait, in college? Like when and how?
While playing a sport,
yeah. For sure. I remember too, like girls on the soccer team would be like, I want one. And so like, it was like, it started out as like a campus thing too. And then, when I built my website, I was like, okay, I really don't have time for this. Nor like, I don't think I took into account like the customer service side and like if there were issues. And so like when that started to build up, it was kind of like, okay, my first jewelry store was called Fun and Flirty Jewels. And so I was like, I have to close it down. I have to close down Fun and Flirty Jewelry.
Okay. So before you made a decision to close it down, how were you managing the schedule and the demand? And now you're getting orders from Jersey and stuff. Like, how were you managing it all?
So I want to paint this picture. It was like, New Jersey was like the one order. Like I might have had like let me preface this, girls. I might have had 20 to 30 orders in the little while it was open, maybe like a few months. So it was like nothing big, very small.
Okay. That's big for college.
Yes,
20 or 30 orders in college. That sounds crazy.
I felt like it was huge over the span. I think I had it open for like 4 months. So that's just like a few orders a month. And what I did before I opened it was I just made a ton of them in my free time. And then I kind of had them on deck. So I wasn't like making them during like the season and stuff. I was just like, I had them on deck and I was like,
had my inventory.
I had these cute little pink mailers and I mailed them out. And it's funny. I went back to my college town and there was a post office I would drop all my stuff off to. And I took a picture of it and I posted on my story. And I was like, where the whole jewelry venture started. Cause I remember I would go in there and I would have my 4 packages of the week and I would like wait in line, drop them off. Yeah. So it was cool. It wasn't as big as I think I kind of maybe made it to seem at the beginning. It was definitely smaller.
But you know what it is though? It's not even about the quantity of orders, right? It's more about the confidence to even step off the front porch, right? Absolutely. Like you found a hobby and I'm sure when you think about the academic load and then you being a collegiate athlete, you being able to make the jewelry was probably a form of release. And then you're like, actually, I'm gonna sell this, right? And most people get scared to one step off the front porch, but then also you're always measuring success against Pandora jewelry or something like that, right? So it really does not matter about how many orders you got during the process, one, but you learned how to build a website, you learned how to market on social media, and step off the front porch. So that's very commendable.
Exactly. I love that. I love that. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely been cool to like learn that back then and be able to use some of that to Waawees too today. So
That's what I was going to ask you about. Like,
Yeah.
let's talk about the transition of what you learned there, you know, the
Yeah.
ups and downs of it, and then going into Waawees now. Like, talk about how that was for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, business mindset. So when I graduated from college, I graduated with my business marketing degree, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So it's funny. I just made a post the other day on TikTok yesterday, and it was like talking about what I did when I graduated college. Like I was a nanny. I was a substitute teacher. I got my real estate license. I did everything to try to figure out like, okay, what do I want to do? Like what makes me happy? What fills my cup? And so I tried it all. And so it's funny because I started doing TikTok back in like kind of the cringe era. Like I like to say, like, I remember when I was doing it, it wasn't cool. Like back in 2019, people were like, she's weird. She makes video. Like I remember even going to some gatherings and people being like, those people that do TikToks are weird. Like they are cringy. And I'm sitting in the corner like,
nobody.
Yeah, I think everyone there knew I did it too. So it was kind of a very humbling moment. But I just remember like hearing that. But I enjoyed video content. I enjoyed connecting with others. And I was like, I like this. So that was kind of the first step of after college, me being like, this is something I've found that I like and I've tried a million things. I'm going to hold on to this and I'm going to run with it.
Right.
And I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to block out the noise. And that's what I did. So I continued to make TikToks. And once I, got like a decent following, I was starting, my business mind was rolling. And I was like, what am I going to do next? Like I was doing brand deals and working with all these really cool brands, but I'm like, I want my own brand. Like I want something that's like for me, for Baby Wit, for myself. And so I went back to the jewelry. I'd always had just like that passion for jewelry and accessorizing. And when I was younger, I was like 6 years old and I would have thumb rings on. Like I always loved it.
I love thumb rings too.
Yeah. Like there's a picture of me with like a sombrero on and I have 2 thumb rings and a watch on. I'm like, I was 6. Who gave me the thumb rings and the watch?
You said accessories. Like,
like
accessories together.
Yeah, just the important things. And so, so when this whole idea of a jewelry business came to life and I wanted to like, I want to go at this thing again. I have different resources now. Like I want to do this all on my own. I know how to build a website. I know how to do these things. I know how to run social media and the marketing side. The biggest thing was like the name. What am I going to name this company? And so throughout all of it, I'm like, why am I doing this? Who am I doing it for? And I'm like, I'm doing it for me. And I feel like during that time of social media, there were so many comments of like, oh, you're a gold digger. Oh, you married for money or this or that. And it was like, I'll get into my husband later, but like, our love story is so special. And it felt like, it was like, man, like, no, I work hard and I want to show like my story. I want something that tells my story. And so when I was younger, I couldn't say my name, Whitney Marie. So I would call myself Waawees. And, I kept going back to it. I would talk to a bunch of people and they're like, Waawees, that sounds like baby clothes. Like you're not going to draw in, like people aren't going to know that story. And I'm like, I have a message I want to send to people over, sales. And my message is this: it's do something for your younger self. Like, Baby Wit would be so proud to know she named my company and named this company for us. And so like, I did it for her. I did it for the young girl who was overlooked, in sports, overlooked in this, overlooked in that. And like, but she was resilient. She wanted what she wanted. And so she kept going for it. She kept showing up to those basketball camps. She kept doing, she kept grinding because she knew what she wanted and she got what she wanted. She got to go play college ball. And I'm like, I'm going to do it for her. I'm going to make Baby Wit proud. Right. So my biggest thing for Waawees is like the brand itself, just spreading awareness to like, life is so short. And if you have something you want to do for your younger self, for your current self, like nothing's too cringe. Nothing is too like, people are going to look at you weird if you do something different, but like, let's look at everyone that's done something different. And, those are the people that end up successful and happy and, successful. We measure that as, some people measure it as a different scale, but I measure it as like my cup is full and I am, day in and day out happy with what I'm doing.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
I know that was a long rant, but
no. How would you say, because given thanks for sharing the story and the inspiration behind the brand. How would you say like that message and those values that you just outlined, how would you say you incorporate that in the designs of the line?
Yeah, absolutely. So I design everything. And I think I just take into account of like, so many different things, right? Like I design statement pieces for, the girl that wants to go out and go on a date night, right? And like feeling special. And so my biggest goal too is like to make people feel special. Like, I incorporate a lot of different designs. I do like everyday wear, some necklaces. I am big into my faith. So I incorporate like my faith into it. We have cross hoops, cross necklaces, coming out in collection 3. And so I feel like mainly just in my design, staying true to who I am, not necessarily going and doing what the biggest profit margin is or going and doing what, is absolutely trending. Like what's me, what's Wit, what would baby Wit, be super proud of. And I feel like with this company being like sustainability is so important. So we have sterling silver gold plated and, you see a lot of companies on the market selling brass, gold-plated jewelry for these crazy, upper prices. And so my goal is to like bring affordability, but like I also want girls and women to be able to shower in their jewelry, sweat in their jewelry, because like that's a part of me too, right? Like,
piece,
like the whole sports workout side of things. Like I want people to be able to like feel comfortable about their jewelry and know that like it's not going to tarnish, it's not going to, leave stuff on my skin or whatnot.
Yeah.
It's so important too, because I think for girls, at least for me, you're talking about the thumb rings, or even like I used to wear the little toe rings and stuff, and you had to get in the water and you didn't want it to like change color. I remember those things like, please don't change. Okay, this is quality. It's not changed colors yet. So we think about those little things as women for sure.
Absolutely. I love
Okay,
that.
so you mentioned this, we have to go back to it. Yeah. Let's talk about your love story.
Yes.
How did you meet Dalton?
I love that. So I met Dalton. He played football at Kansas State and I played basketball at Fort Hays. So we actually played exhibition games against each other and we would go to Kansas State. So he had known of me through sports and we actually ended up meeting at the Lake of the Ozarks, which is a very near and dear spot to the both of us. I grew up there. My parents had a house down there growing up. So we got to go spend weekends down there, and Dalton was born in Missouri, grew up in Colorado, but when his time of being in Missouri, his parents fell in love with the lake. And so they kind of grew up there as well. So it's kind of like a common ground for us, which is really cool. So we ended up meeting down there and we were both just in like weird phases of life. I had transferred to a different school my last year of ball and I transferred into a nursing program. And so it was like a whole big switch up and I was meeting Dalton. He was about to move to Denver to start his rookie year in the league. And it was just like a time that didn't seem like it was going to work. And I always tell this like part of the story because it's so special to me is it's like, when I was younger and in college, I was very lost. Like I was just always trying to figure out, as we all do, right? Like just trying to figure it out. And I feel like Dalton was the first person that I came along and was like so sure about me, like more sure about me than I was about myself. And like that is something that just like has always like stuck with me. Like he met me in such a low time of my life that like, but I remember how sure he was of me. Like just like he was like, nope, we're gonna be together. Like this is it kind of thing. Like from day one. Yeah. And so I remember just like even looking back to being like, that young, just like broken girl trying to figure it out. And like, that's like the most special thing about our marriage to this day. I feel like from my side is that, he was Whitney, like he was so sure about me from day one that I'm like, it was like the easiest decision to marry him because I'm like, man, you loved me at my lowest. And then we got to grow up together. And, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but we met at the lake. I'll go back to my story. We met at the lake and we kind of just hit it off. I remember the first weekend we met, he was like, do you want to come back for my birthday next weekend and come to Colorado and meet my family? And it was like very quick. I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I was just a small
too much right now.
Yeah, I was a small town girl. I'm like, I don't know about that. Like, is this guy do this a lot? Like, and I think it's funny because the NFL, I was 20 years old when I met Dalton and he was in the NFL. And I was just a young girl trying to figure it out, and to be thrown into a world where eyes are on you and, your every move is being watched. People are seeing what you're doing. I had no business being there at 20. Like I just didn't, And so like us having to navigate that, we did long distance for a year while I was in nursing school. And like, I think it's so special because everyone will ask like, oh my gosh, like the honeymoon stage, like, was it amazing? And like the cold truth of it is like, no, like we were two athletes that butted heads. We couldn't figure it out. We loved so hard. I mean, when it came to the core things about like having each other's back and loving each other, like, oh, we were there, but like, like, man, we like would bicker at each other so much. And so fast forward, we got engaged. Dalton put on a huge proposal that was really sweet at my parents' house.
Let's rewind a little bit. What were you guys bickering about? Like, so the core of it,
the littlest things. I'm saying like, just like wanting to win an argument. Like, I mean, someone
athletes, like really competing.
Yes. Like maybe it was, I was asking him a question, or he was asking me a question and I replied, or he replied with a little bit of attitude. And then one of us is like, why do you have attitude? And then it's just like, it's like a full blown like spiral. Yeah. And then we're talking about like the laundry and like, like we were just two kids, and we never had any big thing to fight about. That was the beauty of it. But we would find things. And I just remember like asking people like, do you fight with your spouse or your whatever? And they would be like, no. And him and I would look at each other and be like, how is that possible? Like, how can
lie? Go ahead.
How can we get there? And so fast forward, we got engaged, and I think then it adds more pressure, right? Of people like, that's when we were doing over the wall kisses. Like he would pull me down on game day. And so people saw,
so cute. Yeah.
Thank you so much. People saw this like, perfect relationship on social media, but like we were struggling, man. Like we couldn't figure it out at home, like to get on the same page. And so, we get engaged, and I remember Dalton and I are very big in our faith, and we sat down one day, and we're like 3 months engaged, and I look at him and I'm like, I love you so much, but like, I know I'm making your life harder. And like, it makes me emotional just to say it. Like, we sat down at the table and both of us are like, we love each other so hard, but we fight harder. And like, I love you enough to like, be like, let's figure this out. Or like, we might have to love each other from a distance kind of thing. And so Dalton and I mean, we were planning a wedding at this point. So we called these two people that we look up to in our faith, and they were marriage counselors, and we sat down with them and we said that opening line. And after that, like I radically changed. I'm talking, learned how to have a good fight. We learned how to respect each other, how to be a good wife, how to be a good husband, how to put Team Risner over everything. Like if I'm winning a fight, Team Risner's losing and our team's losing kind of thing. Yes. And so, I mean, like gave us so many tools. I cannot stress this part enough, that they radically changed our lives. And like now, like if we have a fight, we squash it in moments. It's like we have those tools to be like, no, like I love you. Let's figure this out. Like we're not bringing anything else in it.
Respectful.
And so, and just how to respect each other. And I have so many girlfriends now that are in the newly engaged process. And I even shared a little bit of this on my TikTok one day, and the amount of women and young men that go through this of like saying like, we can't figure it out, but like we love each other. It's so true. I mean, you have two people from two different backgrounds and you're sticking them together to try to figure it out. And it's like, it's hard. And so, so radically changed. We ended up getting married.
What would you say were the top 2 or 3 tools that you guys learned to implement within your relationship to like make it even through that stage?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a believer, I think the biggest thing was like learning to love him and have grace for him, like I would have, like Jesus has for me. And I feel like through, when you first start dating, you want to be right. You want to, like, even when I was younger, like I just had this mentality of like, I want to be right. Like where are you? And I want to be right. And so learning to like look at it through a different lens and be like, it's not about being right. Like if kind of what I said earlier, like if I'm winning, our team's losing, like, am I going to be a selfish team player and want to win over the team? Like, I feel like that kind of put it into perspective of like, hold on, like I need to take a step back because I want our team to win. Ultimately, Team Risner over anything. So that was the biggest thing, even like even if we were getting into fights, kind of both of us being like, hey, is Team Risner winning right now? No, let's take a step back. Let's figure this out. And then I would say number 2 is just kind of going off of that, like how to have a good productive fight. Like if I have something that I have beef with Dalton about and I need to tell him, learning a way to not come at him. So like we talk about you messages and I messages, like coming at him and saying like, you do this, like he's going to retaliate versus like, I feel this way because of this. Like just learning how to phrase it different to kind of knock that like chip off your shoulder, like because he's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder of like, oh, it's me, it's my fault. The defensive, so I would say overall just like communication of like how to speak to each other, how to come into this and be like, okay, like walls are down. Like something they shared with us is like if I'm like telling him I'm sad, rather than just saying like, hey, I'm upset by what you said, but of like giving a picture and saying like, I feel like a 8-year-old boy who just got left at the park. It's raining. He can't find his mom and dad. He's sitting on a park bench. Like, how do you argue with that? Like, you know, this visual.
How do you not empathize with that? Yeah,
exactly. It brings that empathy out of like, dang, like my spouse, my partner my teammate is hurting. Like I'm gonna do whatever I can to make sure they're not. Like I have this bold picture of what you're feeling like, and I don't want you to feel that way, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's good. That's actually great advice. I think you for sharing that.
I tell you, I'm like, my parents be like, because they saw, you know, pre-Dalton and Whit and post-Dalton and Whit. And I'm a kind of person where like, I'm a hard lover and a hard fighter. And I, you know, love to be open with, like, I'm a very open person. So, I mean, sometimes Dalton would be like, we're going to go down this path in front of your parents. Like we're going in front of your parents. Yeah. And I'm like, yep, like we're doing it. And so they
like, I ain't really want to do this right now. But
exactly. He comes from a family of all boys. So he's like, oh, they don't really talk about feelings. And he's like, wait, what? Like, and so it was just like an adjustment. But my parents got to see some of the nitty gritty. And so like, my mom's the first to get so emotional just to talk about like how our marriage has, you know, they've been married for 28 years, how our marriage has impacted them, how, you know,
I love that.
Yeah. So it's, and I, like it all goes back to one, finding a partner who's willing to put the work in and willing to stop at nothing. And 2, like a marriage counselor that will change your life, because they gave us the tools to learn how to, you know, have a great marriage. And I'm so glad they did. Like, I'm so fortunate for that.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing I got from that, Whitney, was you know, people taking the time and going to marriage counseling before getting married. I think a lot of people, they get excited. To your point, you're getting excited about the wedding and all these things you want to do, but you're not working on the internal things to actually sustain getting married.
Absolutely.
So finding someone, you know, to have the hard conversations beforehand, to learn the tools, you know, beforehand, so that, you know, when you do get married, it's still not going to be rainbows, but it's still, you have the tools to be able to communicate with one another, to give each other grace and show each other the love that, you know, each one of you needs. So
absolutely. And I feel like there's a stigma on like people, you know, saying, well, if we're having to see a marriage counselor, a pre-marriage counselor, we shouldn't be getting married. Right. And like, I feel like having someone who is also that athlete mindset of like, no, I want to be the best. Like we were both in this like competition of like, I want to be the best wife. He wants to be the best husband. And so it's like, if we can go to practice per se, like, right. And go have somebody teach us those fundamental skills of like, if you want to be a good wife, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to become, this person, you know, you have to be that selfless rock for your husband and vice versa. Like, I think that mentality's got to go out the window, because, you know, it's life-changing for sure.
You know what it is? It's like people have more grace for like new parents, right? They're like, oh, they're new parents. They don't know what to do. Like there's no manual or no manuscript for how to navigate parenting, right? But honestly, no one is really taught how to be in relationship with someone, right? And so you don't necessarily always get the skills and the tools you need to be able to communicate effectively, to be able to advocate for yourself in your relationship in a respectful way, like you have identified. And so the whole notion of, going to premarital counseling, like it's for that. It don't mean that you're not mates. It don't mean that that's not your person, but it's like, I was not given the tools to learn how to be with this person.
Yes.
It looks different.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we're all raised so different. Like a norm for me is not a norm for him kind of thing. And it's just,
opposites attract.
Navigating that. Absolutely. Yeah. Just navigating that it's so true.
I want to rewind a little bit. You touched on two things that I'm like, made me ponder a little bit. When did you know that basketball was not going to go further than your collegiate career? Like, what was that experience like?
Yeah. So I think I just always knew. I guess I should back up, because as a kid, if you would have asked me what I wanted to do, I would have said go overseas and play. I think I always knew I wasn't talented enough to make it to the WNBA. So that was like never like in my vision, I guess. However, like to go overseas and try to make that work, I knew that wasn't going to be what I wanted any longer, probably into my freshman year of college, simply because, I talk a little bit about transferring. I didn't have the best experience in terms of court relationship with my first coach I had. I had a very old school coach, and I think it just kind of, so many women experience this. And it's like, my personal experience is that my coach talked to me in a way that I had never been used to and I didn't react well to. And, it worked for some girls and it didn't work for me. And so
what was that?
Just like
the yelling, the saying.
Yeah, I think, well, also too, just like, cursing, screaming, throwing things like that, just intimidating, old school vibe. I was not used to. My dad,
they call it
my
the
dad
Bobby
would
Knight?
What'd you say?
The Bobby Knight style, Bobby Knight.
Like my dad, don't get me wrong, my dad would jump down my throat after a game if I was being lazy, or, he would let me know. And I was used to that for sure, but like in a respectful way that wasn't demeaning. And so I show up as a, 18-year-old girl, and I have this whole entire change. And, my career shifted very, very quickly. Like my very first game on the court, like season game, I remember I scored like 15 points, and as a freshman playing, like that's very, for my program, that just wasn't a normal. And I remember having people come up to me after and being like, you're from Missouri, how did we get you here in the Kansas side? And I remember thinking like, I'm on top of the world, like this is the best thing, I'm feeling great, like I'm gonna do good here. And the first 5 games I held an average of like 12 points a game, and I was feeling good. And then December comes, and I remember being in the locker room for a game, and I just remember feeling like everything had changed. Like I'm talking the way I was, interacted with over my defense, and then going out the next game. I remember I was at the top of the key and I had the ball, and I just like went to reverse it. And I like was so scared, so intimidated about like my next move that I literally, like, I'm talking, I vividly remember throwing it to the other team and just being like frozen, like scared. And now looking back as a 23-year-old, I'm like, I would handle that so differently now, right? Like I have thick skin. I've been through some things. Like I would handle that so differently now. But as an 18-year-old girl, I folded. And so I think just from then it was like a battle of like kind of the mental games, the mindset. There would be games where I would play 30 minutes, and then there would be the next game where I wouldn't get in. And it's like at a college level, that just shouldn't be happening. If you can play 30 minutes and you're trusted enough on the court in a big game, and then the next game you're trusted to not even go in, it's like it's hard for a young girl to understand and be able to prepare for a game, and be able to understand her role when it seems like the team doesn't even understand it. So after my sophomore year, I transferred out, just because I think it was one of those things where I'd go in the office and we just like couldn't get on the same page. And so it was kind of just better for the both of us. I think that if I went to a different school, which I loved, I loved the first school I went to, Fort Hays State, was, I met some of my best friends there, and it was such a great time in the school overall. And I wish I could have stayed, but, I think that's when just I had this idea that like, okay, it was the coach. That's what we just weren't on the same page kind of vibe. I still love the game. And then, I went to my second school, and I kind of got to be the girl. And I was, I remember I had my like highest scoring game. I got to score like 33 points one game and I was having fun with it. And I had like All-American honors and it was great, but like something was missing drastically. And it was the love for the game. Like I didn't love it anymore. The coach was great. Everything was great. I feel like the biggest thing for me was I would go out and have an amazing game and I would walk off the court and I'd forget about it. I wouldn't celebrate. It was just like, okay. But then I'd have a bad game and I'd think about it for 3 weeks. And I'm like, this like cycle is just like, there's no love. Like there's no love. It's only negativity. And so
it became unhealthy for you, I'm sure.
It became very unhealthy. And my third year, so my junior year after COVID hit. And so it was one of those things where I'm like, I don't love it enough to go back for a fourth. And so I ended up and I ended up stopping after 3 years and being like, and at first, like to circle back to your question, I had like a negative vibe with the game. Like Dalton loved March Madness. I didn't even want to watch it because it was like, you love something for so long and it's like your whole entire world. It's your identity. Then you have to come out of that and realize, okay, I wasn't happy there, but also who am I? So I think I just like had this like resentment towards the game for a while. And, over time I've gotten that back. Dalton and I will go hoop and play 1v1 and it's so fun. And I miss like the fun, side of it of like just hooping 1v1 versus like game style stuff. But I think that was really just when I knew like the game,
it's not for you anymore.
Like I loved the game, but it didn't really love me back my freshman and sophomore year. And that's okay. And through that, I think I fell out of love with basketball and became something where I'm like, okay, this was a great part and sports teach you so much. It was a good part of my life, but I think I'm ready for like the next thing.
Yeah, you're not alone in that. I think about a lot of athletes and, what they go through with coaches. Yeah. And I don't think coaches realize how impactful they can be, whether that's positive or negative. Yeah. And so, it sounds like that coach definitely put a sour taste in your mouth when you left there. And it definitely changed everything for you. And I see that not just on the collegiate level, but even with these younger kids with the AAU basketball,
I was just thinking
high school basketball,
that makes me sick.
It really does because you start to realize that coaches back in the day were in it for the right reasons. Now you're wondering, are coaches really in it for the right reasons anymore? So you're not alone. I hear it all the time, and I'm glad that you were willing to share that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, not getting on here to dog on the coach. It was just like, we didn't mesh. There were some girls, I'm sure, that were highly motivated by it, but like, it just wasn't how I worked. And it wasn't, how maybe some of the other girls worked on the team. And so it is kind of cool through TikTok. It brings a community because you can see so many people's videos. And I have seen so many women just talk about their stories. And it is crazy to see that, so many, men or women that are in these coaching positions have such an impact on these young women's lives. Yeah. And it's like, I wish that there was a little bit more precedent that, like maybe even having someone on the team that says, okay, like mentally, like, how does this girl work? Like maybe let's try to
coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's the same in teaching, right? You have to teach kids differently. Not all kids learn the same, whether it's, in a classroom, and not all athletes learn the same when it's on a court, on a field, or wherever they are, in their lives, for sure.
Yep, exactly.
I think the most important thing, though, in general, is like if your goal is to create these great fill in the blank basketball players, football player, whatever it is, you have to make sure that those players maintain the love for the game, right? Yep. Because you are in this position of power, you can really crush that, and when that's gone, there's nothing else you can do. And I'm also glad that you shared on resentment because I think about I was telling Atoya, so we were on the Super Bowl team, the first Super Bowl team to win for Seattle. And we just celebrated the 10-year reunion. And that's
amazing.
Eye-opening to kind of see the healing that some of those players that were from that team had coming back to the facility now, right? And this was more of the realization of like, oh, they built resentment around their experience here, right? Yeah. And it's more likely the experience leaving. And you think about NFL players that no longer play the game on their own cognizant, where they were cut and never picked up, or they were injured and just felt like they still had it on it. Everybody builds that resentment. And what do you do with it? And I'm thankful that for you, at least, you made something powerful, or you built something powerful with it.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think so many athletes on so many different levels experience that because it's so tough. Like I always think of the phrase of like, you can love the game, but sometimes the game won't love you back. And like that's so true in so many situations where people, like you said, they get forced out. Maybe it's injury, maybe it's unfair, maybe it's, like not everyone gets the same opportunity. And I think that's like, as humans, we're like, oh, I work hard, I do the right things. It should be fair, but like the reality is that it's not. And so as humans, we can build that resentment, and it's definitely important to break that down. And because, no one wants to live with a heart full of resentment towards a sport or an organization or just anything.
An experience,
for sure.
Period. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about your jewelry really quickly because I want to talk about that before we go into the 2-minute drill. Because you've built this amazing jewelry line, and I know people are like, well, where is it? Where do I go?
Yeah.
Let everyone know where they would go to find Waawees Jewelry.
Absolutely. So currently we are being sold in store in Cherry Creek at Lou Collective. And, we're working to be in more wholesale stores eventually. But for now, that's our first one. And everything else can be bought on Waawees.com. And the goal, like long term, would definitely be to have a storefront and work with a ton of like boutiques that, kind of align with what we believe in. And so that, people can shop in person. So we're working on that currently, but for now you can shop at Waawees.com.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Now, are you ready for the 2-minute drill?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. You're an athlete, so this should be easy for you. Get your game face on. Yes. Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. Tia, you ready to set it?
Yes. Go ahead.
Basketball or football?
Wait. Watching or playing? I guess
whatever come to mind first.
Whatever comes to mind.
Okay. Football.
Okay. What's the most important lesson you've learned this year?
Oh, that nothing is given and God's timing is better than our own.
Ooh, she's good. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
TikTok or Instagram?
TikTok.
What are you most grateful for?
My husband.
Okay. What's the worst comment made to you on social?
Oh, I got a few. I'm going to say probably that the comments of like gold digger or like you married for money. Just because I'm so proud of my marriage and what we have that I'm like, man, it's like sad that you don't even know. You have no idea. Yeah.
What impresses you?
Ooh, resilience. People that have resilience.
What's your favorite vacation?
Our 1-year anniversary or our honeymoon.
Where'd you go?
Cabo in Jamaica.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they were both so fun.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I am an introvert that was made an extrovert. I have become a very big extrovert. Like I love talking to people now, but if you would have asked me 4 years ago, I would have said introvert. My husband is the most extroverted person you will ever meet. And he has like pulled me out of a shell and, made me a new human just by leading by example.
I love that.
Okay. A tattoo artist just walked in. You got 5 minutes to pick a tattoo. What you getting?
I only have one tattoo and I probably will never get another one, but I have a tattoo of a D on my right ring finger. And I'm so undecided and I changed my mind so much that I would have to say I can't get another one because I have to at least think about it for a year.
That's good. Favorite fast food spot?
Cane's, Raising Cane's.
Oh my, you sound like my son. Oh my gosh, he loves
that place. Oh, it's so good.
Okay, last question. What would you say to little Whitney?
Oh, I would tell her to keep going and that life is going to get so much better than like you ever could imagined, and to continue to put her head down and continue to do the things that sometimes it feels like, why are you doing this? And that she's going to be all right.
Love it. Well, you know what? I'm sure there's so many people that want to get a hold of you, Whitney. Tell them where they can find you.
I'm so sorry. On socials or?
Yep.
Okay. Like, do we need my phone number?
Yeah, they want to see your TikTok. And come on now.
You can find me, Whitney Marie Risner, on Instagram and TikTok.
Awesome. I'll be sure to put links to all of your socials in the show notes.
I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. This was so fun to chat, and you guys are amazing. And I love the podcast, and I'm honored to be on it.
All right, y'all. Thanks for listening. That is our show. For the latest on the Inside Lines podcast, make sure to follow us at Inside Lines Podcast on both Instagram and Facebook.
You can also listen online and share your favorite episodes at our website, which is insidelinespodcast.com. And if y'all don't know by now, we have a YouTube channel. That's right. Follow us at Inside Lines Podcast and make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you get all the notifications when the new episode comes out.
Until next time, leave it all out on the field. Thanks for listening.